Rusame reader, Kurosung, and today I will be reading to you from Everlasting War by Cake. Before we get into Chapter 12, the same warning from Chapter 8 applies. If I can't figure out the language through reason, I'm reading it in English. That being said, let's get into Chapter 12. Chapter 12. Change. Russia slowly opened his eyes, groaning as he did so, slightly pushing himself up. The blinds were closed just enough so that the light wouldn't shine on his face, but from the looks of it, it was morning once more. He quickly realized he was still in his uniform and decided to stay in it, just fixing minor issues here and there. Walking outside, he realized he would have to address the townsfolk. So he decided to go find his brother. Good morning, Russia. Soviet has arranged a speech for you at the town hall square today. Afternoon. Russia turned to his sister. A look of sorrow hid under the tiny signature smile of hers. Russia only grabbed her and pulled her into a hug. Извините, пожалуйста, was all he said as she let herself hug Russia back. That is the incorrect translation of I'm sorry. It actually means excuse me, please. Russia? Russia turned his head to see a smaller girl wearing a white button-up shirt and a red and white skirt hugging her waist. She wore a thick necklace around her neck, under the shirt collar, and a gold belt tied around in the front sat above the top of the skirt so you couldn't see where it ended. A white and red shawl hung over her shoulders and hid the majority of her body. Da, Latvia? Russia asked, still holding on to Estonia. Where's Mama? Estonia pulled out of the hug to look at Latvia. They hadn't told her. Shit. Estonia walked over to Latvia and shooed her away. Probably for the better. So Russia left. Quickly, Russia found himself in the planning room, knowing his brother would be there, and he was correct. Zadarovasa, Russia.
Вы уже слышали новости из Эстонии?
Soviet asked, staring at a group of papers on the table. That roughly translates to, Hello, Russia. Have you heard from Estonia yet? Da, вы видели британцев? Russia replied, looking at the papers on the desk. They were plans for the speech Russia had to do. The Russian roughly translates to, Yeah, have you seen the Britons? Он в Беларуси. That roughly translates to, He's with Belarus. Правильно. Спасибо. Russia replied, leaving the room immediately. That roughly translates to, Right, thank you. Soviet hated him now. He killed his own father, but his father was an abuser, a rapist. How could Soviet Union even like him? If it weren't for his father, his mother would be alive right now. He would have his mother. He wanted his mother. Too fucking bad. Russia stood in front of a large crowd. They were silent, waiting for him to say something. He had to address them, but the thought of him messing up was weighing him down. It didn't help that America was watching him, hidden among a group of guards. Once the last few people settled down and focused on Russia, he knew he had to speak. The crown that sat on his head was daring to fall, only being held by some pins and hidden ribbons that Ukraine was sure wouldn't fail. A bit too much trust she had in tiny, fragile things, and Russia had no trust at all.
Добрый день. С великой скорбью сообщаю, что царица Кальмар Юниан, моя любимая мать, скончалась прошлой ночью во время родов.
Russia announced, holding any feelings back, trying his best to look strong. That roughly translates to, "Good afternoon. It is with great sorrow that I bring the message that Sarina Kalmar Union, my beloved mother, has passed away in labor last night."
Однако мы приветствуем в семье еще одного принца, принца Литовского. До дальнейшего развития событий он является следующим наследником.
That roughly translates to, "We do, however, welcome another prince to the family, Prince Lithuania. He is, until further developments, the next heir apparent." Chatter became more loud as people talked amongst themselves over Russia's announcement, causing Russia's anxiety to be more than apparent, every person in Britannia's combined. "You're doing great," a quiet voice whispered, Russia barely being able to hear. It was America. And, thankfully, he calmed down slightly.
Следующая неделя будет неделей траура по нашей покойной царице Кальмарской унии.
He added, then stepping back to allow his eldest brother to take the floor and announce anything else. That roughly translates to, "This next week will be a week of mourning of our late Sarina Kalmar Union." Russia hurried off and was immediately yanked down by Ukraine so she could fix his crown.
Це було просто добре, як ти це так зіпсував?
She mumbled, angrily. That roughly translates to, "It was just fine. How did you mess it up so much?" "Udalenya," was all Russia replied. That roughly translates to stress. "I don't think it looked that bad," America added in, causing an annoyed groan from Ukraine. "America is right," a man said, towering over Russia since he was pushed down still. "For your first time, you did great. It was better than any speech Isa can do." That roughly translates to father. The man wore a blue-gray uniform and had his own crown, which sat on his head. "Finlandia! Ty должен быть в Vipuri," Russia exclaimed, making sure he wasn't too loud the townspeople would hear him. That roughly translates to, "Finland, you're supposed to be in Vipuri."
Äitini kuoli ja sain nähdä veljeni ensimmäisen puheen.
Finland replied, placing a hand on Russia's shoulder. That roughly translates to, "My mother died, and I got to see my brother's first public speech." "Lovely to meet you, America. I'm King Finland," he greeted to America, who eagerly shook his hand and introduced himself back. "Actually, Estonia wrote to me about you. Coincidentally, this isn't the first time she's written about your family. She had a lot to say about your sister." "Oh, Malaysia." "That one, yes," he confirmed, while Estonia repeatedly punched his arm. She also noted a brother said they were intimate with some guard here. Estonia immediately stopped punching Finland and said, "They were always around each other." "Trust me, my entire family believes Canada fancied that guard. He's just on the border of Prussia right now, trying not to die." "Oh, you're at war with Prussia, aren't you? How is your father holding up?" "He's awfully stressed," America replied. "He's got mother, though, so he should be fine."
Уберите отсюда всех монархов.
That roughly translates to, "Get all of the monarchs out of here." Suddenly, a large amount of screams came from the crowd. Russia turned around just in time to see an attacker lunge at America with a short sword. Nobody could react fast enough, and America was stabbed. Russia held him as his sisters rushed to provide medical assistance, and Russia just watched America's face through his veil. Panic filled him. He had just allowed the Crown Prince of Britannia to be murdered whilst Britannia gets roped into another defensive war. Then he looked up and saw Soviet. He had a faint smile on his face. Of course, he praised father. He was going to force a woman to marry him if Russia hadn't accidentally interrupted. Which, good for Russia. Soviet ranged the attack. He was just as insane. And that's the end of this chapter. And, well, that's a note to end one on. I don't think I could say I hope you enjoyed this chapter. Anyway, I'd like to invite you to join the Discord, which is linked down in the description below. That being said, I hope you have a nice rest of your day, night, or whatever it is for you. Just enjoy your time. And I will see you tomorrow.